Welcome back. So last week I talked about a few new IEM releases, and one of them was the KZ ZSTX. And I think at the time I said of the three, I think it was the one that didn't have a discount because it was $16, $17 at the AK audio store. So this morning I got an email that said, oh, hey, we're actually doing a promotion on the KZ ZSTX. So instead of $16, it's $13.50 without the mic, $14 with the mic. And for those of you familiar with any of the stores on AliExpress who do sort of negotiated discounts like this, the process is not straightforward to begin with, but once you do it a couple times, it becomes pretty easy. So what you actually have to do on this guy is you say, add it to your cart, buy it now, and go through checkout, but don't pay. When it comes to payment, just say other payment, and then basically back out. You go check your orders, and you'll see the order will be complete, but it'll say, add payment now. So instead of doing payment now, after that, just message the AK audio store and say, hey, I heard there was a promotion on the ZSTX. It should be $13.50. Can you adjust the price? And they will go through and adjust the price for you, and you'll get a notification that says, oh, your new price is ready. You can add a payment now and check out. So I'll kind of include that in the description, but that's kind of the gist of this promotion on the AK audio store. It's not for everyone. Because you have to message them. There actually is one coupon, but it's not for $13.50. I think it'd be for $15. There's a dollar coupon. So this one gets you a bit more of a discount if you kind of go through the trouble of checking out without payment and then contacting them for the new payment and then all that junk. So I will give you a little link to that. So that was that, just a little update on the ZSTX. So I do want to say that my TRN VX and M10 finally arrived. I actually got these from the AK audio store as well. So I said, hey, what about, you sent me some promotion on the ZSTX. What about the VX? What's the price? So if you actually look at the AK audio store, it'll say there's a $15 coupon. So that would be 70 minus the 15, which get you to about $55. But if you do the same process that I talked about with the ZSTX and you just add it to cart at the normal price, you may be able to use a coupon. I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to message them. But they will adjust your price down to $53 total. So pretty good deal on the VX. But I do kind of want to run through a first super quick look at the VX. It actually came yesterday, so I haven't spent a ton of time with it. But, up close and this close, it's actually really nice. These are metal. They don't look all that metal, but they're definitely some alloy, aluminum-ish, and they're actually kind of weighty and beautiful, and I really dig it. I think TRN does some of the best shells kind of in this price range. KZ is kind of hit and miss, but KZ doesn't they do resin shells or they do mixed shells, but the V90, the BA5, some of these metal shells that TRN have put out have been super nice. And this one, fits just as good as it looks. So if you happen to catch some of the first impressions on the VX, you knew some of the very first ones weren't super favorable. Everyone said, oh, the treble is hot. Okay. So my sort of take on it was, if you go back and read, so anything past the very first initial reviews, and I was actually reading a couple last night, people start talking about this thing really needs a burn-in period, it needs tips, it needs a cable, all this other stuff. And if you watch a couple of my videos, this won't be a super surprise that, things tend to mellow out, be not as hot if you change the cable, get tips that fit, tips that, are a little slightly smaller than what's stock provided. All these things help to address that problem, and the VX is really no different. And so get past the very first people who got it originally and said it's, hurting my ears. Kind of go to some of the more recent ones where people have spent more time with it, and I think you'll get a kind of a better view of, and probably a more objective view of what it sounds like and And for especially those of you who crossed it off your list based on the initial reviews, I think I would definitely revisit that and think about as these new reviews start to come out. So addition to the treble is super hot. It's not super hot. I think it takes the treble where it needs to go, maybe an inch over the hill, so to speak. For some people, it's maybe 2 inches over the hill, but it's actually not. It wasn't nearly as bad as I imagined. People's heads exploding because it was so piercing. It's definitely not that. It definitely goes as high as it needs to go. So people like me don't say, well, it didn't really go far enough. It definitely goes far enough. And for those of you who goes too far, you got to EQ down 1 or 2 decibels on 2, 4, 6, 8. It's going to be on one of those is probably bugging you. But in general, I didn't. I think it's kind of fine the way it is. I kind of like it the way it is. So treble hot, treble focused. I think that's kind of fair for the treble heads. Yeah, that's kind of fair too. But the very first thing that I noticed right out of the box, and one out of the box, they actually sounded fine to me. I know that card says to burn them in for like 200 hours, but out of the box, they actually sounded really good. So out of the box, I didn't necessarily notice the treble, and I know that it's for treble heads and treble hot and all that junk. Out of the box vocals. And if you go look at some of these more recent reviews and see what people are talking about, the mids and the vocals, you'll see it happening more often than it did in the beginning. The vocals are super nice. And I think the biggest complaint they'll be super processed, too smooth, too glassy. Agree with all that, but the presentation on the vocals, where they are just in front of you, how transparent they are, the clarity there, all that is pretty amazing for the VX. And I think that sort of outshines the treble for me. I mean, I was just listening to random playlist songs and the vocals always stand out before I even noticed, maybe that's a bad cymbal, a little thin, and whatever. I didn't really worry about all that because you get sort of entranced with the vocals. And so I know it leans for treble head and people are talking about it, but really go back and listen to what people are saying about the mids and the vocals. I think you're going to find that they're probably way better than the V90 because I didn't really like the V90. It addresses some of the CA16 problems of, sort of a recess in certain vocals. The treble didn't go high enough. So the VX kind of addressed those two. And I think the third kind of point that was rumored for a long time was that this is more of an Asian tuning. So it leans towards female vocals. I don't know if that's true or not, but I will say that female vocals are amazing on this. And I think male vocals are amazing too. But yeah, females definitely shine. So if you're a Lady Gaga fan, the VX should probably be on your list. So we'll do a full review of it, but I just kind of wanted to get that out there that go past some of the initial reviews where people said it was so harsh and couldn't listen to it, and get kind of the more recent view where people spent a bunch of time with it, let it burn in, change the tips, change the cables like I did. You won't find it nearly as hot as what people described. I didn't think it was all that bad at all. I mean, you can push it. There's certain EDM where you can definitely push it that far, but in general, the treble definitely soars and ascends just like I wanted it to. And even at volumes not nearly as high as something like the KB Ear or the Blonde, it just has this fun, engaging treble that you didn't find on some of the other things. So, yeah, I was kind of a little didn't quite understand why people were saying it was so bad. It's strong, without a doubt, but I didn't think it really went over the hill, so far that people were really complaining about it. It's not that. So anyway, we'll do a full review of it, but I just wanted to throw out those thoughts out there. If you guys were on the fence, to definitely go back, look at some of the recent things and review that, whether you scratch it off the list or still on the fence, but definitely consider what people have been saying about it lately. So again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.